Good afternoon, great contributors and leaders. My name is Hong Bin Lim and I'm a representative from a water management company called WaterCo. We aim to mitigate flood damage by using water management strategies to either decrease the rate of flooding or decrease the damage of floods. Before I talk about how floods happen and how to decrease the chances of floods, we have to understand about what nature is part of flooding, and so I will explain briefly about the hydrological cycle. The hydrological cycle is a sustainable system that exists in nature. This system allows water to be recycled infinitely. The sun uses its heat to evaporate the water on the ocean or any other forms of liquid base so that it turns into water vapor. Water vapor is the gas form of water and is really light. As it flows to higher elevation, it solidifies back to its liquid state and forms clouds. The reason it will solidify back to its liquid state is because of how cold higher elevations are. As the clouds are moved by the wind, more water is stored and eventually the clouds are unable to carry the weight of all the water and then it starts raining, which is precipitation. All the water that has rained down then travels back to the ocean in two ways: surface runoff and through flow. These are the two main reasons why rain would affect the quantity of floods. Before I talk about surface runoff, I would have to explain about the hydrographs and how hydrographs are also important to identify the reasons of floods. In the hydrographs, you have four main parts, which are the rising limb, the lag time, the peak discharge, and the peak rainfall. From 1991 to 2001, a total of 12,000 landslides have happened and over 1,000 floods have happened in Italy. The reason for this is because of the terrain they live in and also the atmospheric position they are in. The damage that has been caused to Italy results in 300,000 citizens to suffer from major property damage. Next to damage to urban land, small floods that happen downstream have caused large amounts of damage to rural lands, and because it is a rural city, it causes more damage to those citizens compared to one in urban land. In these rural lands, agriculture is executed, which means lots of crops were destroyed and lots of farm animals were killed, which brought a larger negative impact to the rural citizens compared to the urban citizens. The damage that has been caused both upstream and downstream can sum up to approximately 2 million euros, which is $2.3478 million in direct conversion rate. To bring this to an average citizen in Italy, it would be margined like this. The GDP per capita for Italy is 30,527 USD. If you divide 2.347800 million by 10, which is the amount of time it took to have the damage, you have 0.23478 million. And if you divide that by 30,527, it will take an average of 7.7 years for a citizen of Italy to get their money back. And that is not affected by other factors, for example damage to governments and damage to companies. We also have to understand that this is the damage that happened in 1 year and not in all 10 years, as I've divided it by 10. So it means the damage back to a person's actually fully citizenized is 77 years. And this is a really major impact to Italy. Turin is the capital of the region Piedmont. Piedmont is a region that borders Switzerland and France. Most of Piedmont consists of mountains, as 42.3% of Piedmont is mountain areas, 30.3% of which consists of hills, and the remaining 26.4% are plains. The largest river in Italy is the River Po, where the source is on the slopes of Mount Viso, which is the river I'm going to talk about. The river itself scales 424 miles, and lots of its water is due to tributaries by the Alps and Apennines. Ticino and Sesia are both tributaries that contribute largely to the floods that happen, and they also separate the Piedmont region from the Lombardy region. Now, I'm going to talk to you more about significant events to explain why these management strategies are needed. In 1994, November 4th and 5th, this flooding event had an average scale of land that was flooded of whole of Piedmont, next to the Alpine areas due to their altitude. The economic damage that happened in this event itself alone was approximately 0.8 billion euros, equivalent to 1.28 billion USD direct conversion. Over 31,000 families suffered property damage and 4,500 citizens lost their homes. The main reason this event had happened is because of the atmospheric situation they're in, the terrain they were in, duration of rainfall they were in, and the number of tributaries present. The reason that the flood was so damaging was because multiple rivers burst their banks, mainly Ticino and Sesia, which I mentioned to you before. Turin was the main area that was flooded, and most of the damage that was done was close to the capital. Although there are a fine amount of vegetation there, the long rain duration causes large amounts of tributaries to overfill the river Pearl suddenly, which routed it to burst its banks. The first strategy that I would like to promote is a water channel. A water channel will be very effective in this situation because northeast of Turin is the direction the river is flowing. So if we create a water channel from southeast to southwest to northeast, where the channel itself will be east Turin, it will work perfectly. Before I continue explaining, I have to explain what a water channel is. A water channel is a breaking part of a river to the bottom section of the river or another river so that it can decrease the peak discharge of the river during long rains. And this is very important, even though it takes a lot of money, is because it is majorly impactful to how this can be affected this way and how this river can be less chance of breaking its banks if we have a water channel. Back to what I was talking, there are no housing areas nor any restaurant or shops as only trees occupy the area currently. If we link that water channel and there is no use for it at the moment, we could use it as a road because the river Pearl is really close to the road that borders the city Turin, which is a long road as it wraps around Turin itself. But if we had a water channel and use it as a road, it would be faster to get across without passing through Turin. Next to that, the road is a highway, which means there will likely be trucks and lorries sending shipments, which will be very disruptive to traffic, and with the second road option, it will lead to smoother traffic for the citizens of Turin and other transporters of material. The water channel is going to be 8 kilometers long, and the resources needed are going to be a large amount, but it is worth because the water channel is going to prevent further damage from happening as it lowers the max discharge of the river. The deforesting in the area will be unhealthy for the environment, but we could reforest afterwards, which will pull back the loss of trees to the environment. And overall, the water channel is worth building because it will stop large amounts of floods, and Turin tends to have large quantities of floods in years, so it is worth it. The second strategy that I would like to provide is building up instead of building left and right. What do I mean by this? This strategy is the encouragement of apartments and skyscrapers over terrace houses, as it will decrease the amount of land used and decrease the amount of impermeable ground. Impermeable ground is a surface where water can slide through easily and enhances the surface around us as it increases the lag time of the hydrograph. Usually, impermeable surfaces are made of cement. Impermeable ground also requires a lot of cement, which is expensive, so if we build upwards, you will save money on that cement. Next time, we will decrease the area of impermeable surfaces and we will be able to still give places for citizens to stay. The destruction of houses will be a loss of money, but the government should be able to compensate for that as Italy has a shocking 1.85 USD for the GDP. Next to that, you can also understand that in floods, the chances of these skyscrapers and apartments getting damaged is lower than terrace houses because there are very high altitude and high elevation of houses instead of being a dull house that can easily be attacked by the floods. The final strategy I have is reforestation. The two earlier strategies I have mentioned will result to deforestation, and reforestation would only be mitigating the damage from two previous strategies. It will also be mitigating the quantity of floods as there will be more absorption towards the water in through flow and surface runoff. Even though it will not be effective in the short term, in the long term with the water channel built, we will be able to reforest even more as we have better control of the quantity of floods, and when the second strategy works, we will have an even more space for reforestation. And that will not only be better for the environment and the mitigation of floods, it will also be great for tourists to have fresher air and better vision on green plants, which in exchange will lead to better eyesight. The main reasons that these things have to be implemented is because of how many historical places or objects there are in Italy. In Italy, in Turin in particular, there are many museums, art museums, past science museums that have been very significant to the growth of our technology, and the loss of these article objects will be very damaging, in which we really need to protect. Therefore, this is very important to implement. Everything I have told you today is a very long-term plan, which could take years to reach. However, the right execution the long-term effect will be very beneficial to citizens and the government. I would like to thank all of the great minds and leaders here for your time and let you make a difference for citizens, government, the country.